Newcastle United are Wembley bound once again. After a victory over Arsenal at St James's Park last night, it confirmed their place in the League Cup final, and what a performance it was. In this video I'm going to be looking back at the result and analysing exactly how Newcastle got the better of Mikel Arteta's side for the third time this season with an aggregate score of 5-0. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we start, as always, please continue to like, share and subscribe to the videos. I really appreciate the support throughout January with the Monday and Thursday shows returning. Hopefully we can build on that momentum, take it through to the end of the season where I'm hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers. There will be more non-Newcastle United content as well as plenty of Newcastle United content coming before the end of the season. I really do appreciate everyone's support, and do get in the comment section as well. I really enjoy the discussions that we have down there, and everyone getting involved really does mean a lot to me, so please do continue to do that. But we're going to talk about Newcastle's amazing night at St James's Park yesterday. They won 2-0 to go through 4-0 on aggregate against an Arsenal side that many people feared facing in the semi-finals, because they've been a very good side over recent years. They've been very resolute, very robust, very good going forward in the past, and good defensively. But in these two games, Newcastle United nullified them at every turn, basically the same way as they did in the league. They allowed them to have the possession, but they always made sure to hit them on the counter-attack. And the tactical approach of Eddie Howe yesterday was really, really special. And I think that's where I'll start. They started with a 5 at the back, or 3 at the back, whichever way you want to talk about it. And many people, including myself, were a bit sceptical of that, because it looked like they were abandoning their way of playing, maybe trying to protect this lead, but actually what transpired was nothing of the sort. Basically it allowed Fabian Schär as a spare centre-half to go into midfield, create an overload, but also press Declan Rice, and that's exactly what led to that second goal in the second half, the clincher from Anthony Gordon. But basically Newcastle were really, really tight. They had such they overloaded the midfield, they overloaded at the back. They did exactly what Fulham did to them on Saturday to Arsenal, really stifled any of the space, didn't allow them too many chances of it. Martin Odegaard hit the post a minute before Alexander Isak scored, after Isak had already had the ball in the net for a very, very tight offside, which I'm still not convinced by. But it was very much, that was the style of the game. Newcastle holding their position in midfield, offering very little space, and then hitting the ball forward to Isak and Gordon and Murphy, who, and particularly Isak, made Saliba and Gabriel, who are two excellent defenders and an excellent partnership, look very, very ordinary all night. And lots of Arsenal fans talk about how Isak is their kryptonite. It really was one of those amazing magical nights where everything clicked, but it started from Newcastle's intensity levels and Eddie Howe's tactical nous. I've been very, very critical of Howe in the past for sticking to his 4-3-3, sticking to his system, not reacting when things don't go well. And I think that there was evidence of that on Saturday. There was evidence of that against Bournemouth and in other games this season, maybe when Newcastle have to answer a question of a team coming and changing their system, adapting to the adaptation maybe is a question. But they are very good at adapting their game to get the best out of themselves against these top sides when they come to St James's Park and making life difficult. Newcastle have beaten Arsenal on a number of occasions over the last few years. In the takeover season, 2-0 when Bruno and Wilson scored. Last season with Anthony Gordon's goal. This season 3 times. Pretty much exclusively done what they've done, what they did last night, which is make their lives difficult. Really quite difficult to understand from an Arsenal perspective how they've not reacted to that, not found a different way forward, not found a way to deal with it. And it's different things, different problems have arisen, but from the same principle, which is hitting them on the counter-attack and causing them problems. As I said, one of my key criticisms of Eddie Howe for a long time is that he's not a principles manager, he's a system manager. That's where some of the Newcastle's poor results have come from, the fact that they don't react. But the principle of counter-attack has been shown again with a different system yesterday, a different way of doing it, but Isak and Gordon on the last line against William Saliba and Gabriel. There was lots of individual battles that Arsenal lost and Newcastle won, but it stemmed from that ability to change their approach and do different things. We need to continue to talk about Alexander Isak, because everything that he does is so good at the moment, but particularly against Arsenal. And I know it sort of creates this media storm. Will Arsenal going for him in the summer? But the reason why that is because they need a number 9 and Newcastle have the perfect one. So the narrative is that if you take that and put it into the other team, that's just how the media works, unfortunately. And it's really frustrating for Newcastle fans, I really get that, but you just need to revel in what happened last night, basically, that William Saliba is probably the best centre-back or second best centre-back behind Van Dijk in the Premier League at the moment. He was made to look absolutely ridiculous. So was Van Dijk as well in the game in December, the 3-3 draw, when Isak scored that brilliant goal. Isak has a really amazing ability to turn defenders inside out because he can do everything. Like, the difference between Haaland and Isak, lots of people say that Haaland's a better player because he scores more goals, because he's more physical, whatever your opinion is. But William Saliba dealt really well with Haaland in both games, I thought, that Arsenal played against Man City this season. But he couldn't understand how to deal with Isak, and it's because Isak brings different things. Isak is as adept at running in behind as he is at dropping deep or going out wide. He can do so many different things. He can get in behind and score a goal. Maybe he's not as prolific and his numbers aren't as good as Haaland, but that's the difference of why a defender like Saliba, like Gabriel, like Van Dijk as well, who also struggle, as I said, why they struggle so much against Isak is because what he does, and he's connected to the midfield, as he was again last night, as he wasn't against Fulham. When he's allowed to, when he gets the space, he can really cause havoc, and that's what he did. The reason why he wasn't effective on Saturday against Fulham was because they cut the lane off from Bruno to him, really focused on finding a way to stop him specifically. Whereas Arsenal chasing the game, they couldn't really worry about what Newcastle needed to do. They needed to impose themselves on the game and find a way to play their game and win the game that way. But maybe that's what they should have done. We are talking about a team that struggles to break teams down when asked questions, but is really good at playing through teams. So that's why I think Newcastle and Eddie Howe felt it was worth it, changing this approach to maybe dealing with Arsenal in specific ways. Going after Declan Rice was really clever because he is so key to the base of what Arsenal do, the pre-assist, setting of the tempo. If you stop him, then you can stop everything that happens above him and beyond him, which is kind of what happened. Ødegaard had a few touches. Martinelli going off, bringing on Ethan Nwaneri was a little bit dangerous. It really stemmed from that ability to get share onto Rice, create that overload. It wasn't meaning that Tonali or Bruno was coming away from their jobs. They were able to get the ball to Isak to dictate the play as well when Newcastle had the ball, find that pass over the top. And it was the same situation as it has been for the last 3 or 4 games that Newcastle have played against Arsenal. They've really caused them so many different issues doing the same things. And Mikel Arteta really does have some questions to answer why he can't deal with it. It wasn't as if Newcastle approached the game differently. They've just done different things to the same end, and I think that's real credit to Eddie Howe. In terms of what happens next, Newcastle face either Liverpool or Tottenham. We'll find that out later, but they've got to go to Wembley with a different mindset than they did 2 years ago. It was very much an occasion then, and there was a little bit of a danger, I thought. Before the game I was a bit concerned about it, but about this game and the whole feeling of being at Wembley, but the whole thing was very much a celebration for fans at Trafalgar Square. Was great, but it sort of gave an impression that the final was the occasion. The media day that I attended with Trippier, Byrne and Longstaff and Eddie Howe, there was a lot of talk about getting to Wembley after 24 years, not ending the run of 70 years, which has been the message this year. There was a real workmanlike and business-like approach to Newcastle doing this last night and getting the job done to get to Wembley to end the drought. It really feels like that's the target this time rather than just enjoying it. And I think there was quite open discussion about that from Dan Byrne, Eddie Howe, Bruno Guimaraes yesterday about maybe the approach last time wasn't quite right. Maybe it was just a sort of like pat on the back of can't believe we got here so early. There was a lot of that message. That's changed this time. It really feels like Newcastle know what they have to do. The talk isn't 24 years since Wembley, the talk is 70 years since a domestic trophy, and that is a really key difference. I think that's why Newcastle should be more confident. Obviously, on paper it would help if it was Tottenham over Liverpool, just purely because of the fact that Tottenham's injury problems and Tottenham have been a lot poorer this season. Liverpool do have that ability to turn up and win games. They've got the right mentality, they're used to the occasion. All of those things were in Manchester United's favour in 2023, and they'd be in Liverpool's favour at Wembley, but I think Newcastle's mentality, Newcastle's readiness, the fact that they've been there once and done it before, experienced that heartache, will give them a real opportunity to strike in this game, because they look like a team that's ready to win things now. It doesn't faze them. They've got that sort of strength of character. Either way, the good thing is, I don't think Newcastle are going to come up against a team that will deliberately try and stifle them. They've shown that they can go against Liverpool at St James's Park and cause them problems. They've shown that they can beat Tottenham twice this season. Whoever they face at Wembley, they should be very confident. But also, Eddie Howe deserves a hell of a lot of credit for the way he set the team up, for the way he changed the approach, reacted to Joe Linton's physicality not being there, brought in Cher to maintain that press, but also create different problems as well, because Newcastle had an overload in both defence and midfield at times, and that was really, really impressive. The attitude was just to allow Gordon and Nufc particularly, but Murphy as well, to put the Arsenal defence on the back foot, and they did that from the off. That's exactly how this game was won. It was a really, really impressive performance. Thanks so much for joining me on this video. Like, share and subscribe. I'll be back on Monday to look back at Newcastle's FA Cup game against Birmingham before Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium next week in the Premier League. Hopefully I'll be at that game as well, so keep an eye on the videos for a reaction from the Etihad. Thanks very much, and I'll see you then. Cheers.